So Fujifilm have announced a new camera in the GFX lineup. So we're now looking at the GFX 100S2. This is following on from both the GFX 100-2, which came out last year, which we reviewed and we really liked, and then also from the GFX 100S, which was a smaller, lighter version of the original GFX 100. Now that's a lot of cameras with GFX 100 in the title, but as the latest version of this, what are we looking at here? Well, this again is a lighter, slightly smaller version, very similar to the GFX 100-2 that we saw last year, but with a couple of upgrades as well. Now, there are some other trade-offs. We'll get into that. We'll talk about that. I had the chance to use this for the best part of about a day, right? So through the day into the evening as well. And the biggest thing for me is that the way it felt was it had all the quality advantages of a medium format camera, right? Incredible image quality, beautiful colors, great dynamic range, just stunning images, but with a lot of the feel and a lot of the advantages that you get from using a full frame mirrorless camera. Fujifilm have really managed to bring the feel of this camera into such a versatile handheld out and about camera that you can do all kinds of things with. And that was absolutely amplified to me by the fact that we were out doing wildlife photography for a lot of the day. Using this with the new GF 500mm f5.6 lens was just an absolute joy. We actually have a completely separate review of that lens. It's absolutely stunning in its image quality. It's also surprisingly light and actually not that big for a 500mm lens. But in terms of the camera, I couldn't get over how well it was performing in those kinds of situations. So whether you're talking about, obviously image quality, I knew it was going to be lovely. That's not really a big surprise. I knew it was going to look stunning. I knew I was going to love the colors. I knew I was going to love pretty much everything about the images. But speed is not always something you associate with medium format. And autofocus is not always something you think of as the best part of a camera, again, when it comes to medium format. But here in the GFX 100S2, I forgot all about that. I stopped thinking that much about it and I just got on with the shooting and it was so lovely. So we've actually got a newly developed CMOS 2 sensor in the camera, 102 megapixels. So same megapixel count as the GFX 100-2 that we saw last year, but it is a newly developed sensor. And like I say, I don't need to go too far into it. You can probably guess the images are so beautiful. I mean, that's not a surprise. I don't think any of us would expect anything other than this. They're stunning. The image quality is lovely. There's so much detail. It means you've got lots of room to crop in as well, which just adds so much versatility again to those end results, the shots that you actually get. There's just a lot you can do with them, right? You can either print massive or you can crop in and still have lots and lots of detail. We've got things like 16-bit high quality RAWs. We've got a new ISO floor, so ISO 80, which you know, you love to see that. 7 frames a second when it comes to continuous shooting, which I think is just a tiny bit slower than the GFX 100-2 from last year. 8 stops of in-body image stabilization in the camera as well, which is really noticeable, especially when you're using one of the longer lenses like this new 500mm lens. You really notice the difference. And it's just wonderful. And then the autofocus. Now, like I say, the autofocus is something which, I'll be honest, I was thinking a lot about before I started shooting, just because it's definitely been getting a lot better in the GFX range, but it's not maybe kept up with some full frame mirrorless cameras. But I'll be honest, I completely forgot about it probably no more than 15 minutes into when I started shooting. And that's because things like the subject detection, the AI focus, the algorithms which are actually helping the camera decide what to focus on are working so well. It's unbelievable. This is exactly what I'm talking about when I say it feels like you're shooting on a full frame mirrorless camera, but with all the advantages of a medium format camera. So the subject detection, I set that to animal, and then I'd switch it over to bird when I was shooting birds, and it just immediately locks on to the creature that's moving around. And then on the eye, little square, green, tracks it. Done. I didn't have to kind of move a focus point around. I can, but the camera gets it. It knows exactly what I'm trying to do, and it does it. I honestly didn't have any issues with the autofocus. I did not expect to be saying that in this review. That's crazy to me. And wildlife photography, fast-moving subjects, whatever it might be, it's so nice to be able to say that and to have experienced that. It's such a nice camera to shoot with. And while I didn't get the opportunity to try this out for portraiture, I can only imagine that for humans, it would even work maybe better, but certainly I can't imagine it's going to work worse than this. I mean, it's tracking animals, the eyes, birds, the eyes. It's going to get people, right? Now, as is tradition these days, this is not just a stills camera. This can absolutely shoot video as well. You've got 4K 30 frames a second. You can now shoot at ISO 100 when you're in movie mode. You've got better dynamic range, 422 10-bit. I would imagine that most people buying this camera are absolutely going to use this for the stills, right? It's going to be a photography-focused camera, but you have got some nice video specs in there as well, which is, I mean, it doesn't hurt, right? It never hurts. I think that's a nice thing to have because if you want to shoot some video, you don't have to switch over maybe to the X-T5, the new X-T50, something like that. You can shoot it on this camera. Now, of course, there are some differences between this and the GFX 100 II that came out last year. Of course, this is smaller, it's lighter, but the GFX 100 II came out last year. You're getting a little bit better battery performance. You're getting a little faster shooting, so 8 frames a second, and you are getting better video in that camera. So if hybrid shooting is more important to you, that might be the better option. For me personally, thinking about this purely from a stills perspective, I preferred using this camera. I loved the GFX 100 II last year. That's a great camera, but the experience that I had with this camera was so wonderful. I mean, it was really refreshing to use a medium format camera like this, but with that genuine versatility of, you know, wildlife, handheld all day, moving around, the AF, it's great. It's really, really great. Now you can check out the GFX 100S too by following the link down in the description of this video. I really genuinely loved it. I'm sure you would as well, but if you want to see all of that fun detail, all the spec, the in-depth stuff, that's the place to go, parcameras.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe as well, because there's new content all the time. I will, of course, see you in the next video. But until then, as always, thanks for watching.